Chris E, we're live. Happy Wednesday. I'm Christina
Hello.
Pan. Welcome to my LinkedIn Live podcast. I'm an executive coach and I help executives and CEO founders who are at major inflection points. I specialize in helping you use your zone of genius to get clarity and confidence in your next chapter. Just a quick note, we'll open it up to Q&A at the end. So feel free to post your questions in the comments along the way. And now I'm excited to have Chris Estreich here today. Chris is a serial entrepreneur and technologist with over a decade of experience scaling innovative consumer platforms. He was the co-founder and CTO of Tophatter, a mobile-first e-commerce marketplace that grew to around 100 million in annual revenue and 300 million in GMV, or gross merchandise volume. Chris provided the technical oversight for the product and engineering teams, guiding the development of Tophatter's real-time auction platform that combined fast-paced shopping with marketplace efficiency. Today, Chris is a founding engineer at Roo Code, where he is working on the cutting edge of AI agentic coding, building tools that help developers collaborate with AI to accelerate software creation. And actually, Chris and I worked together for over 4 years at Tophatter. I'm excited for him to share his wisdom today. Chris has lived through the highs and lows of both scaling and personal inflection points. He's known for his experimentation ethos and ability to find fast-moving water, or where there's fast traction. And Chris is one of the best I know at pivoting quickly and taking fast action. On top of being an inspiring builder and innovator who is incredibly product and business savvy, Chris was also a soccer star on the Tophatter soccer team, which had many incredible players. Would you say, Chris?
It did. That was a good team.
It did. Yeah, it was amazing. I watched them play. What else does he not do well? He also kills it at pickleball. We played pickleball with our colleagues Kailash and Adam, and Chris had barely started pickleball and was already killing it at the advanced level. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that glowing introduction. I'm not sure how well deserved it was, but I'll take it.
Oh, more than well deserved. Okay, so let's dive in and start with the founder builder journey and AI. So first, Chris, as I just said, you've had a fascinating career building products from early social web to mobile marketplaces to now AI agentic tools. Looking back, what is a through line you see in the kinds of products you've built or problems you've chosen to solve?
Yeah, I think the answer to that kind of goes back to the very first products that I started dabbling with. So right after college, I was actually supposed to go work at Microsoft, and I found that all my friends were like not working at bigger companies. There were a bunch of exciting startups, and they all kind of like were doing the startup thing, and I got a little bit of FOMO around that, and I was like, oh, maybe I should like tell Microsoft that I can't join and go join a startup, which was really bad form. And they told me that they would never consider hiring me again in the future after reneging on their offer. But at any rate, I joined a pretty tiny startup right out of college, and kind of got the the mid 2000s startup experience, which is a little bit different than it is today. But at a certain point, I decided that I thought maybe I could do everything this company was doing myself. And so I started dabbling with the idea of maybe starting my own company. And so eventually, my best friend at the time, he and I just decided to quit our jobs and start building stuff. And that immediately shut off any income stream we had. And we were living in San Francisco at the time. And so the first experience we had with building products, we had this constraint around getting traction with $0. So what that forced us to do was like try to figure out the types of products that distribute naturally or organically. And so it was very distribution oriented. And over the years, every idea that we consider, we sort of started with like, okay, what's the network effect? What's the flywheel? how might this distribute organically, and not thinking about like the details of the product so much, just the distribution mechanism was always like the starting point for talking about these types of ideas. And there's kind of a trope about founders where like the first time you start a company, you're like a product idealist, and then the second company you start with distribution. Like, interestingly for us, we just kind of stumbled into this distribution focused way of building products, out of this constraint of like not having any resources at all. And so that's definitely been a through line, this very sort of tactical distribution focused approach to building products. And the reason why that I think suited us well was because we weren't the type of founders that had like a vision of something that should exist in the world, and we were going to like bend reality to make that thing exist. There's like a certain type of founder that can do that. I think it's pretty difficult. You certainly need a lot of conviction about a particular state of the world that doesn't exist yet. We were more like very much open-minded and experimental, and I think there was a lot of fun and energy that we derived from just like trying interesting things that we had no idea whether it made sense or would work or not. And then over the years, I think we refined our focus a little bit, so we had a better sense of like the types of things that might work. But I don't think we ever lost that sort of open-minded, experimental type of approach to things. And so I think those are the characteristics of the way that we ended up building things. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a little bit different than the type of person that will only work within a particular domain. I think our open-mindedness led us across all sorts of domains and different product types and things like that, because we weren't, we were just very experimental and open to where something might take us.
Oh my God, Chris E., I love that. That's like very counterintuitive to think some of the mainstream thoughts about like how one should be or could be as a founder in terms of starting with vision first. And the second thing I really love about that is I think it inherently leans into your zone of genius, which we'll talk more about in terms of like being very experimentation oriented and a pivot master. So I love how you follow those tropes. And then is your best friend Ash?
Yeah. I mean, he was my long-time co-founder.
Yeah. Okay. So then my next question
for years before that. So, yeah.
Yes, you both went to Stanford and did computer science there together. Is that right? Is that how you met?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, besides, also Ash as well is also a soccer star on the Tophatter
He's
soccer
the real
team.
soccer star. He played at Stanford, so he's like a legit player.
Yes. And I actually personally gained a lot of respect for working with soccer players and athletes who turned into tech builders. Because I think you guys brought really helpful habits from my outside observation. So my second question related to pivoting and Ash is you and Ash Kumar, who was CEO, co-founder of Tophatter, as Chris said, you actually built, I believe, 9 full-fledged products and businesses before Tophatter. Is that right? And you had a company before Tophatter called Blippi that pivoted into Tophatter. Right. Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say it's a little generous to call them businesses.
Full-fledged products. And so that is a lot of pivoting. Even before Tophatter and within Tophatter, we did a lot of pivoting. So what did you learn about pivoting that founders don't talk about enough?
Well, I'm not sure. I think
pivoting and or experimenting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know how many people have really experienced the pain of like being super positive about the direction you're going in and then finding out that there's no fruit. It's not going to bear any fruit. And then you kind of have to rethink everything. It's like we've done it so many times. It's like a very painful process to all of a sudden, one day feel very lost in the direction you're going in and having to kind of rethink things. And I don't, I guess I don't hear enough about people talking about how difficult that is and how to navigate it. I think for us, we had the benefit of being like sort of naively optimistic about things. So the next idea, the next sort of best idea that we had, we were able to get excited about and build enough energy to kind of propel us forward to explore that. And I think like if you're not the type of person that can kind of organically do that, it's really, really difficult. I remember at times feeling like, man, we just lost all direction and we have nothing now. It's like we worked so hard to get to this point and we literally have nothing. And now we've got to like do something else. It can be really draining. And I think it's pretty easy to give up at that point. But inevitably, like we were able to just get excited about some new thing and just immediately go heads down and start building that and to try to build that into a reality. And so I think the other thing that helped is that everyone involved in this company early on was a builder first. And so it's not like you're waiting on the sidelines for some new direction to emerge and start working without being able to contribute. It's like everyone just immediately changes direction, starts building, tries to get convicted about the thing that's being built. And so, yeah, I think that's sort of how we navigated it. But I remember at times just being very like, man, this is really difficult. It was so much work to get here and we're nowhere. That's just like such a tough feeling. But over time, like as we gained experience evaluating businesses and just a lot more experience building products, I think like the pivoting got a little bit easier because it was, there was just more credible conviction that could be built about like the next direction we wanted to head in. And over time, I also came to see like the core Tophatter business as like this thing that kind of started out as a toy, found the semblance of some traction, and at times that traction would get stymied by something, but you just kind of keep building on top of it and taking it in slightly different directions, slightly different paths up the mountain. And thinking about it as a framework of like, okay, we're going to take the next set of bets to move us forward. It starts to look less like pivoting and more like you are, mountaineering with like some amount of skill, although maybe those two things are the same to a certain extent.
Like you're
But yeah,
zigzagging up the mountain, but you're still
exactly.
going the right direction, or a productive
Well, you're still
direction.
trying to go up. Sometimes you go down a little bit, but anyways, I think like, as Tophatter became bigger and bigger, like we still engaged in that type of product building, but it looked less pivoty and more like kind of strategic, traversal up this mountain.
Okay.
But yeah, that's maybe it's not like unknown to people that pivoting is hard, but like I just remember it being the success with your pivoting is very much related to how much energy you can manufacture.
Okay. Oh, nice. So would you say the top one thing that maybe you learned from that could help people who are at that moment of like, we have nothing now and they're very lost is to just start building? Or what would your advice be?
That always worked for me. I always immediately felt better when I had the semblance of some direction, and I would get semblance about direction by building. But there's certainly a shadow to that approach, and the shadow being like you could just like not think very deeply about what you're building and just basically convince yourself that keeping busy is the right thing to do here. So I'm just going to build something, anything. And it ends up being like terribly misinformed about what you should be doing, what you should be building. And so like, I think you have to balance that. But at least for me, like the way to stay positive and get on the path to building conviction stemmed from building. So I was always quick to pull the trigger on building the next thing, trying the next thing, collecting the next piece of data. And I found that to be helpful. But I fully acknowledge that, prematurely building a bunch of stuff can also be bad.
Yes. And I would say, I mean, at least it worked well for you because you were leveraging, I think it's in your zone of genius. So it could look different for everyone. But taking action to get new learnings, or as you said, some semblance of a direction, I also have found useful as well. And another thing I personally would want to add is, like, I think another thing that could help people in this situation is coaching in terms of getting out and reframing the dark times. And so, okay, along with, I have another question about things that people don't talk about enough. So you took Tophatter, you and Ash took Tophatter from 0 to hundreds of millions in gross merchandise volume, like scaling it from nothing to something huge. What's one thing about scaling a startup to that level that people don't talk about enough?
Well, I guess I will use like how much this surprised me as a proxy for how little it's talked about, or maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. But I severely underappreciated how important like people management, organization, structure, how much that stuff mattered at a larger scale. So as we got bigger and bigger, like the amount of personal impact I could have was just greatly diminished. And so it was like a much more leveraged use of my time to like empower teams, squads, and other people to kind of like do the types of things that I maybe would have done if I were like the individual contributor on everything. And in order for like the organization to be able to operate that way efficiently, like it's just a lot of people and org structure stuff that I was pretty dismissive about early on, because I didn't really know any better. And I just thought like, okay, I'm just going to go, stay up all night and fix every problem by writing a bunch of code. And that's really not the way it works at scale. And so, to Ash's credit, I think he kind of realized this early on and pushed me to appreciate that aspect and start investing in these things. And so we spent a lot of time on, taking the mission, vision, and values that we kind of intuited ourselves and were core to, this company we started, like actually putting real structure, like writing it down and like running it by people to see how it landed. And I think like the types of people that were attracted to us as founders and the company culture, I think like it landed well for them. Like, not surprising, I guess, but like having it like written down and talked about and like iterated on as a team, I think helped on a lot of alignment issues, and it sort of helped inform the way we would operate. And that ultimately helped inform the way we would structure the organization. And, there were all sorts of hiccups along the way. Like it was a whole different kind of discipline to learn, beyond what I thought my core value add was. But I was very much surprised and blindsided by that. But I think I quickly embraced it. And, like some of my favorite years at Tophatter were the years where we felt a little bit bigger and we were in a position where we could focus on some of these kind of high level organization building things that ended up being really important and valuable for the folks that were involved in the company over the years to be a part of. And so,
Yes,
yeah,
I was part of
remember that very fondly.
Oh, I love that insight, especially for, it's amazing how as we get wiser, we realize like the crux is usually the human side, like the human people problems, no matter like how much we're innovating or doing amazing technology in our companies. And so,
and the thing that was really hard for me, I remember, was like, the more we succeeded at doing those things, the more I stopped like doing the type of work that I enjoy. So it's like giving other people leverage to kind of replace the core function that I would do is hard. It's like, okay, if I'm successful with this, then I'm going to be obsolete. And like, I don't want to feel obsolete, but that's actually like the best way to get the most out of the organization. So it's a little bit counter to intuitive. And I feel like a lot of founders struggle with that and maybe don't give up the reins early enough. But there's certainly a lot of value in thinking about how to obsolete yourself.
Oh, yes. I mean, it is your baby. You worked at it for so many years. So, I mean, not you and all founders in general. So thank you for sharing that wisdom. And like, so related to the other side, the innovating side, if you were, I want a different question. If you were advising a founder starting something new in AI today, what's the first thing you would tell them?
Yeah, I think what I would tell them is like burn the boats now. Like the
Are
you
you
have to
talking
like
about?
go all in on like there's an interesting inflection point happening where like people are still trying to figure out how to leverage AI to work in this new way, but they're also kind of clinging on to the old way of things that has worked well for them. And it's pretty different, like this old way of things and this AI native way of doing things. And I struggle with this when I write code. I still am writing a lot of code, and I always consider myself like a real craftsman and like care deeply about how things looked and how they worked and how they were structured and like the symmetry of all these sorts of things that have arguable value for programming. But like I felt like I was trying to perfect a craft, and now I just prompt some model that's much smarter than me and that just like spits out a bunch of stuff. It doesn't look very nice. It's very effective though. And I have to like come to grips with the fact that that is the new way of like doing my particular job. I mean, there's other interesting things I can do now that I'm freed up, but like I think there's examples of that for literally every role within a company that you're starting, and I think you just have to like embrace that and really try to get on the cutting edge of that. And I just feel like, especially like more of the senior folks, there's a real hesitancy to like give up the control, but you just have to like burn the lifeboats, give up control, go all in on this thing and like see where it takes you, because it's so early days on it and it's moving so fast, and you just need to be on like the bleeding edge of it to like understand the problems that are going to emerge and where you might create value based on that. So that would be my advice.
Okay. Yes. I was wondering if you were talking to like founders in our peer group, because I do see a lot of people in their 40s and 50s who are, founding for the first time or founding again. We have a wealth of experiences to leverage. And so, or were you speaking more? It sounded like you're speaking more to that versus like
Yeah,
maybe founder,
it's the more
Gen
senior
Z founder.
folks. Yeah, have
Okay.
more experience. I mean, I was talking to a founder last week, and I was telling him that like at my current company, we're being like deliberately very slow to hire, um, as opposed to like other times during my career where we were just like we just felt like we needed more people like working on stuff to get higher throughput. We're kind of resisting that temptation, even though things are moving so fast, and being like really careful with the way we hire. And this founder was like, well, I'm just hiring people like fresh out of college, and they have no experience and like not super understanding of like the stuff they're producing, but they're so skilled at using like AI to like produce stuff that it's like working really well, and like certainly will pay the tax for that later. But like that's sort of his approach now. I thought that was so interesting, because it's like, okay, yeah, you don't really have to like the folks fresh out of college now, you don't really have to like coax them to use these new tools. It's like that's kind of like the thing they reach for first, because that's all they know. It's certainly not the case with the more experienced folks, especially like more experienced engineers, which we see a lot because we're building engineering tools, and ideally we want it to work well for really experienced people. And man, there's just such hesitancy to use some of these things and there's a variety of reasons behind that. But yeah, I
Wow,
think you
that's
just have to go
surprising to
all in on it.
me. That's Because well, maybe it's the people I talk to, but I talked to one of our former Tophatter coworkers in engineering, and she said she uses Cursor helps her produce like 95% of her code, and she does the high level design, technical design, and guidance. I think she might be on the early adopter end though, of more senior engineers adopting AI and really leveraging it. People like you, Matt as well. Matt, who also works at Roo Code with Chris, also worked at Tophatter with us.
Yeah, there's a real benefit to being an early adopter type in this world, but let me tell you, there are a lot of non-early adopters that are sort of inexperienced roles.
So what advice would you give to those folks? Do you have one piece of advice that might open a new perspective for anyone watching? Maybe even from a positive angle, like how you resisted something and then you're like, wait, this is amazing.
I think the thing I would impart is that it's not like, I think a lot of the hesitancy to use these things is like, there's a little bit of skepticism about how well they work, but like that's clearly over time being solved. Like every iteration of these new models are getting better and better and faster and cheaper. And so like that skepticism, I think, will quickly go away. And then it might be like, well, okay, there's like a real existential threat to like replacing like the thing that I'm good at or spent my entire career building skills for. And I just don't think that's going to be the case. It's like, it's going to be a different type of role, but similar, like the skill set you've built will serve you well. And so to the extent that you can have an open mind about like what that transition will look like, I think it'll serve you well. But I don't think it's going to be the case that all of a sudden like technical roles will go away. It's like that. No, I think the technical role, you'll just be doing some different things, but the skill set will translate to that well. And so I don't know. I think that will at least help some people keep an open mind about the evolution we're going through.
Oh, yes. I mean, my current point of view is, and maybe it's a reframing along those lines, is I view senior engineers have like maybe the most upper hand in this AI era because of all the ability to architect and think logically and problem solve optimally, and to be able to guide all the AI agents smartly.
I totally agree. I think like to the extent that you can understand the output of these models, you will be in a superior position to someone who doesn't have the experience that can't do that. And there is a big gap between like that fresh out of college type of person that I talked about and being able to understand the output and someone who's got 20 years of experience. So it's a big advantage.
And what's your piece of advice for someone just out of college engineer or anyone, everyone's using AI now. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like you're clearly skilled at using these tools, but you have to like try to understand what's happening under the hood to some extent. Like you like that skill set that senior engineer has spent 20 years building, you have to engage in a little bit of that in order to even more powerfully wield these tools. But it's kind of like a garbage in, garbage out thing. So it's like you need to maintain a certain amount of cleanliness by understanding like how to get it to a clean state, like the output of these models, so that you can keep iterating on it and eventually build a product that continues to work after you run it through an LLM a million times. So it's I think it's really interesting. It's like the senior folks need, like, they just have this this gap that the junior folks don't, and vice versa. And so just collaborate and you'll be able to solve that problem.
Like basically leverage where you're strong at, like also in addition to your zone of genius. Or that's how I would say it. But also, did you mention to me
having an awareness of what the gaps are is also, it can be hard as well. So.
Yes, that is something that comes up. That is a big part of executive coaching as well, for anyone who doesn't know. But did you also mention to me that if you were to advise someone fresh out of college, that you would suggest they just start something? Was that something you mentioned to me? before?
I don't think I did. That's an
Okay,
interesting
amazing.
question, though. It's unquestionably so easy to start a company now. It oftentimes annoys me how easy it is.
I think you did mention
with,
that you thought next year might be the first solopreneur billion-dollar company. Is that right? Can you speak more about that?
Well, I just think that these LLMs just allow you to be dangerous in so many different areas that are kind of outside of what your expertise would be, that I think it's actually possible to just automate nearly every important function of an early company. And if you have enough traction and core product market fit and you're able to automate enough of those other functions away, then you might end up in a scenario where you have like a single person company that's just wildly valuable. I just think that's closer and closer to being a reality. I think not certainly a lot of people think that as well. So, and it's not like a groundbreaking take or anything, but it just living, like being at the cutting edge of the Roo Code is like so close to every new model launch, and the programming use case for LLMs is like clearly like the early killer use case, and a bunch of others will emerge as well. That there's just a lot of frenzy and competition in this particular area. And so we sort of get to be at the cutting edge of that. And when you start to see like the new capabilities that launch, not even monthly, but like weekly, then you start to see a future where it's like, okay, that transformation is going to happen across every function. And you're, as like a single person who's like modestly capable at a bunch of different things, you can start wielding these things to like build a company that looks like 100 people work there and is worth an insane amount of money like that. I feel pretty confident that will happen.
Do you mean engineers only, or do you mean anyone,
No,
any background?
no, that's the beautiful thing about this. Is like you can be dangerous enough without any like prior programming knowledge to like build something that kind of works just using models alone. Um, you, you might run into all sorts of security issues and things like that, but like, you can kind of work your way through it. And yeah, it's certainly going to be like a wild world where you have like, someone who's like a marketing person build like $1 billion company and also wrote all the code via an LLM.
Okay, so the takeaway to me is like, whether or not you're fresh out of college, why don't you just start your own business? Not just you, but like for anyone out there listening. Like, this
Based
is
on
the
the
best
number of
era
new
to take a
companies
bet
that
on
are getting
yourself.
started, I think that is happening to a certain extent.
Wow, amazing. I'm excited. Yes, we are in exciting times for sure. And also, do you mind giving everyone a little context on why you see this with Roo Code for people who don't know what Roo Code does? Like why you're seeing these early trends, and why you even said earlier about seeing resistance among senior engineering folks transitioning to leveraging AI.
Yeah, so the product we're building is effectively like a coding assistant that lives inside of your code editor, VS Code in this instance. And what we lean heavily into is like the more agentic capabilities of these LLMs. And so you basically like tell it to do something, it will gather enough context, all the signals it can from your editor, basically accomplish the task you're asking it to do, which might be like a small refactoring, or it might be like, hey, build this whole new feature. And depending on how well your development environment is set up and how much context you share with the model, it can actually like do everything an engineer would be able to do, except much faster and probably much more thoroughly. And a lot of sort of early adopter programmer types got really excited about like this type of agentic system. And so we have a bunch of early adopter users who are like really excited to try the next new model launch from any of the big AI labs that are producing frontier models. And so in order to serve those customers, we're sort of like constantly like adding new models, adding new model providers, tuning the way the product works with these things. And in the process of doing that, you can see how these models' capabilities are evolving, like day to day, week to week, month to month, and the productivity gains from some of these model improvements are just jaw dropping. It's like the features I can build now, just dog fooding our own product, are like so well done and so complete compared to just like February of this year. And the amount of progress is just jaw dropping. And so if you kind of extrapolate that forward, and in particular in other fields, not just like software development, you can start to see this world emerge where it's like, okay, these models are just so capable. There's so many tasks that they're going to be able to perform where it doesn't make sense for a human to do anymore. And you just have to figure out where in the loop should the human be to best leverage these things. And so I think that kind of higher level question, like the people that have good answers for that are going to be able to create a lot of value for these startups. So yeah, I mean, we're just in that grind daily and weekly, just to serve our customers. And being at the forefront of that and seeing how rapidly things are progressing, it's just, yeah, it's really inspiring. But like I said, for a lot of people, it's not so inspiring. It's kind of scary for a variety of reasons. But yeah.
Oh, that is inspiring. As I'm listening to you speak about it, I'm like, oh my God, this makes your zone of genius even more important in the now and future in terms of like being a human, figuring out where you fit in leveraging AI and in that world. A lot of it, I personally think it will depend on your personal strengths as well. And also your personal, not just where you fit in, but where you can maximize your potential and output, performance, whatever, with the AI tools that we don't even have yet today. Okay, yeah, totally awesome. Agree. Nice. So I'd like to pivot now to a different subject, if that's good with you.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about being an introverted leader, because I believe you identify as being introverted. Is that right?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, everyone in product and design at Tophatter and probably engineering, like even our VPs and execs in product and design, self-identified as an introvert. I think I was the only one who was identified as an extrovert, and I'm borderline. So I love my introvert time as well. And so, yes, I've always found you to be a very thoughtful, articulate leader. You were so articulate in those moments, like when you gave speeches at company all hands meetings or even company parties. I'm like, wow, Chris E should give more speeches. So what have you found as the best ways to leverage your superpowers as an introverted leader?
Well, I guess a couple things come to mind. Like certainly, I think there's some amount of novelty when you do end up speaking up, like in those moments. There's a little bit more weight that you might otherwise not have just by being introverted because people aren't hearing that from you all the time. So being in a position where you can kind of pick your moments and when you have something that you think is like particularly valuable to inject in the conversation, picking the right moment and doing that, you can land with like more gravity than it might otherwise. And so, I mean, that's a fairly tactical thing, but like that was something I definitely thought about a lot, over the years at Tophatter. And the other thing that's a little bit less tactical and a little bit more just characteristic of being introverted is like, you can use that as an opportunity to to grow, because like you're going to be in a bunch, like by being introverted, you're going to be in a bunch of positions where you're doing things that are a little bit uncomfortable, and forcing yourself to get out of your comfort zone, I think is valuable. Being able to do that well repeatedly over time. And people that are introverted just have more opportunities to do that kind of thing versus someone who's like very comfortable in all these situations. Someone more like Ash, I think took to it very naturally. For me, not so much. And so to the extent that I, had the opportunities to challenge myself over and over and over, I think that was like really helpful for my personal growth. So I think you can view that as certainly as a benefit of being a little bit more on the introverted scale.
Oh, wow. That's a good reframing. You have more growth opportunities
Exactly.
as an introvert. It's true. We grow the most when we're outside our comfort zone, for sure. So as I always tell my clients, if it feels cringy, go for it, because it probably means it's your growth edge.
Yeah, I like it though.
Okay. And was there any like one maybe surprising learning or advice you'd give to probably the many folks out there who are introverted leaders? Like I find many folks in tech are introverted.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I might just reiterate like the thing you just said. Really, I like the way you said it. It's like if it feels cringy, maybe go for it and see where it takes you. But yeah, I don't know. I think you would have better coaching advice on that than I would.
Yes. I mean, I would also say embrace who you are. And I think, Chrissy, I always loved how you're very open and direct, and you didn't try to be someone you're not. I think one thing I see is whether they're introverted or not, a lot of people feel like they need to model this certain, like very charismatic, outspoken kind of leader. Like we don't Barack Obama, and we don't want to be, right? We want to be our own person. And so does that resonate with you?
For sure. And it makes me think about like also some of the decisions that we made on how to build out the executive team. I think we thought of it very much as like, let's try not to hire carbon copies of us. Let's try to round out like, like we're all, I think like a little bit narrow in our own ways. But to the extent that we can have a well-rounded team holistically, like together, I think I remember talking a lot about that in hiring discussions specifically for the engineering team. So I might be on the introverted end, but rather than try to like change the way I operate and not be like sort of authentic to who I am organically, let's like fill out the executive team with people that complement that really well. So you can sort of stay true to your like sort of organic state of being. I think that was ultimately pretty useful.
Yes. Stay true to yourself. And you guys were maximizing the team as a whole when you maximize different strengths that are complementary, and you complement each other.
Yeah, I think the idea was to be bigger than the sum of our parts by complementing well at the executive level. I don't know how well that worked out, but it was certainly something we talked about a lot.
The strategic intent was there, at least.
Yeah, I just remember like comparing the way I greet people to like the way Shri greets people. It's like so different, but like it's awesome to have like
Shri Menon, like, who is also an executive at Tophatter. Yes. I'm very extroverted.
Yeah, he was like incredibly like warm and outgoing and like all the things that I'm not, but like I really appreciated that sort of compliment to who I was. So anyways.
Okay, great. Awesome. I also would love to ask you more about your recent personal inflection points and your experiences with coaching. I work with and talk to a lot of folks who are at inflection points, and evaluating how to leverage their experiences and their strengths, and really wanting to do something meaningful and aligned with them. You had a major personal inflection point after leaving Tophatter. Tell us more about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, so for context, like I worked on Tophatter for, well, it was Blippi and then something else in between, and then Tophatter, but the same like corporate entity, the same C Corp. And for well over a decade, it was like 12 years or something like that. And it was like the thing I lived and breathed every day for 12 years. And there came a time where it was clear that like there was sort of nothing more I could do to make the company successful, and it made sense to sort of bring new leadership in and transition out. Um, and to their credit, everyone involved in that transition was awesome and made it very easy to me. But like that first day when I'm like, okay, now I'm not living and breathing this thing anymore, it just felt like incredibly empty. Like I just, I don't know, like so much of my identity was like wrapped up in this company, and then it was gone one day. At least for me, it was gone. And that was like, I didn't really know what to do with that. I guess I kind of assumed that I would just immediately start the next thing and it would go as well, if not better than what I did before, and it would feel the same. And but that's like not, you know, that's just not what happened. And I just had like this huge crisis of confidence where it's like, being a founder at a company of like decent scale, and you have like the founder moral authority and everyone kind of listens to you and respects you. And, um, whether that's earned or not is debatable, but like I got used to that over like a decade plus. And then all of a sudden, like no
Also,
one
you
cared. And yeah, it was just a very empty and lonely kind of day that emerged in my life. And like I had to figure out how to navigate that. Um, and like to be honest, like it was like incredibly depressing. And um, I think I fixated on it overly and thought about it all day because I had nothing else to do because I wasn't ready to jump to the next thing quite yet. And it was, yeah, it was like, it was really hard. And I think the only kind of thing that got me through it was like having an awesome family and support system at home, and also talking to folks who had been through something similar that could like kind of at least give their some account of what their experience was. So you don't feel like you're the only person in the world feeling those things. Um, but like it was a long road. And even after I started building things again, it was like I was building it in a new context with a new set of people. And it was very different. It was like, you know, all this credibility that I thought I had earned, with, people that I'd worked with for a long time, it was like gone all of a sudden. And then yeah, like every time I made a mistake, I started to question like, what was, am I really like actually good at what I think I'm good at? It was like very, yeah, it was tough. So yeah, I probably would have benefited from like talking to someone that deals with this stuff professionally, but I kind of just navigated it on my own, leveraging, the folks in my network that I thought had been through similar things. So, but yeah, it was like the extent to which my identity was like wrapped up in this company was like all of a sudden when it was ripped away, it was very difficult.
Oh, yes, you definitely went through a major identity transition. I was gonna say, Chrissy, I could help you in my current state. I
Should have
wasn't
asked.
current me back then. Sorry.
Um,
And yeah, just to normalize it for everyone. I mean, in my line of work, I talk to many people who are exactly the same, not the exactly same situation, but similar transition. It's like a major identity shift, right? And also just even in your physical day to day, going from building and being around all these people and a team and mission and everything to like all that not being there. And I also think about like it's kind of can be similar to how people feel when they retire and they didn't have plans after as well. Like retire as in they just didn't have any plan. Hello?
Oh, I don't know. Was that on my end or your end? I'm not sure.
I think it was my end. Sorry,
Okay.
podcast malfunction.
Yeah,
We're like talking about like deep thoughts, and then all right, okay, we're
I
back.
know. The loading screen.
Yeah. So, Chris, I appreciate you once sharing so openly and vulnerably, because I think it would resonate to a lot of people out there that we don't even know who will hear this. But the heaviness of feeling like empty or very lost, and second guessing like what you're doing in life is
Yeah.
very real. Even as a entrepreneur, we go through those periods too of like, is this what I'm meant to be doing with my life? And is there more than this? And so what would you say was the most challenging part of that inflection point for you, that journey you just mentioned?
Well, I think it kind of dawned on me at some point that like I needed help and I needed to ask for help. Um, and that is not something I do naturally. Like I like being the guy that can like figure something out without anybody's help. That's just kind of like how I'm built and how I've operated over the years. And so this was like a little bit different. It was like pretty clear that like I needed help. I needed to talk to people. I needed to get the right perspective. Um, so yeah, I think that was probably the hardest thing for me.
Yes, the perspective part. That's a huge part in terms of, just reframing our situation and like reframing your zone of genius into like the next thing, and getting clarity and confidence on that. And so, what was the best gift or learning for you out of that experience?
Um, I think like at first I was mostly talking to people that like it was hard for me to listen to what they were saying because they were like they loved me. They wanted to see me do well. So it was like it didn't feel like the most objective thing that I could be hearing. And I was really craving some sort of objective viewpoint on it. And oftentimes you can't get that from the people closest to you. So the more I kind of ventured out and got some like a perspective that was a little bit more objective and kind of some folks I talked to was like this is a process. You have to work at it. You're not going to feel better overnight. There's not like some magical thing. And like starting to get a sense of like what the road ahead looks like, I think was like very valuable and helpful. So um, it just didn't feel like so lost. It was like, okay, at least the path is hard, but at least I know kind of what it looks like. And then I could start behaving in a way where like, okay, I'm gonna like chip away at this over time. I'm gonna iterate. I'm gonna move my way up the mountain, kind of like the way we would iterate on products I alluded to. So framing it similarly, I think like got me to a much better place. And now, I don't even really think about it. I'm also like super busy with the new company, so that helps too. But yeah, I mean I think that was probably the most helpful thing.
Okay. So getting perspectives farther from you.
Yeah.
It sounds like you talked to, was it other like founders or former founders?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you
People
meant?
that
Yeah.
had
Okay.
had similar outcomes to companies. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I would also say, yes, this is also where executive coaching could help, like that third party. And not to keep plugging it, but I mean, that is what I personally see that helps the most. And that you really focused on your, like a renewed personal North Star vision in a way. Is that right? Like when you say the roadmap ahead, because I also see that as a very useful tool. It's like, okay, this is what you did in the past. How can let's get clear on your next personal North Star vision, maybe what you want to create in your life in the next 3 to 5 years, for example. No hard timeline, so that you have something excited to run towards too. And because I find like people stay where they are when they don't have something clear that they're excited to run towards too.
Yeah, I think that encapsulates it well. Like when I was lost, I felt like I had no direction. I had nothing I was shooting for. Like I was just kind of like, swirling around without any real sense of like what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And so developing that, getting excited about it. Yeah, I agree with all that.
Oh, although that's a little bit counter to your natural experimentation ethos. So how did you reconcile that? Because like you as a founder previously would just start building, but in this case, you did not.
Well, I feel so comfortable and confident building things, but when it's like your real life, I feel much less confident about like my ability to kind of build there. So it felt a little bit different. It felt like I was out of my domain of expertise, and that's why it was like so helpful to realize that I needed to ask for help, because like when I'm building stuff, I'm typically not asking for help, and kind of pride myself in not having to ask for like figuring things out for myself. And the process of figuring it out is invaluable for me, at least. And so like being in a position where it just doesn't feel like you're going to be able to figure it out. Like that's kind of how I would characterize the difference between those two states.
Oh, very astute. Yes. I see that as well. Like, right. We often have very clear visions and strategies for our business, like in business strategy, company strategy, or, product strategy. But then when I ask people, many folks do not have like a clear written personal vision. Like when it comes to the personal side, there's not as much definition or clarity. So yeah, that resonates with trends and patterns that I see as well. And that makes for many of us, doing the work thing is a lot easier than confronting our personal side and our and our identities.
I mean, I often neglect my personal life in service of work, so there's that too.
I'm pretty sure that'll resonate with lots and lots of people. That was me too. And so, okay, and related to that, you have had coaching before. I know once, way back in the day, you thought executive coaching was a waste of time. I know you were joking, but maybe not joking. Why did you think that, and what tipped you over?
Well, I don't know. I would say I thought it was like a premature optimization, which I do not like doing. So
good energy management.
Yeah. Like I think it just didn't feel like something that was high leverage early on, and then kind of waited too long. And by the time I got some semblance of experience with coaching, it was like so clear that there was real value, because I probably waited too long to seek it out. But I think the most interesting thing I did was there's a couple of people that basically created a company based on the curriculum from the like famous touchy-feely class at the Stanford GSB, where they have like this T group framework. And so I did that. It was like a intensive, like go to some Airbnb somewhere with a group and stay for like, I forget how many days. It was like several days, and just kind of like run through like a fast-paced version of what you would get out of that GSB class. So that was probably like the most intense thing.
That sounds intense.
And you kind of go in. What's that?
No, that sounds intense, but fun. I mean, you probably had like so much emotional growth packed into a few days.
Well, yes. And part of the reason why is because everyone's kind of showing up to this weird environment with like the same motivation to like really be open to this sort of coaching and this curriculum you're getting. And so it's like a really strange environment that doesn't feel like real life, where there's like everyone's like so locked in on like this thing in particular that you can make all sorts of strides and progress and do like put yourself out there in ways that you might not in real life, because this is like not a real life environment. And I think that makes it, that adds sort of adds to the intensity of it. Like I remember like the sort of small group that I did most of the work with, like when we left, we're like, oh my God, we have to have like a monthly meetup and like keep, like there was like this real sort of like buildup of adrenaline. And we're like we felt like we had been through this intense thing at the end of it. And for a while we did have like meetups like that because there's just like this strange shared experience that's so intense. But at any rate, like it was an interesting blend of like tactical stuff that I remember using very frequently in like management type situations, especially like intense sort of standoffs with people when there's a lot of emotions flying around and disagreements happening within the company. And also like beyond the tactical stuff, just like very like high level frameworks that you can kind of like spend a lot of time thinking about. But I remember being blown away by how evolved and useful this stuff was. And it's just not something I would have predicted. Again, it's like sort of out of my domain of expertise, but I just found it so valuable because it was like such a gap in my, such a gap in me.
Oh, I think it's a gap in all of us. We don't grow up learning these tools,
Right.
like the interpersonal dynamics. And yeah, as you were speaking, I remember I think a few times at Tophatter where at least once where I said something and then you said that triggers me. And I was like, wow, that is such great communication. And like I started saying that too. But I think these are the benefits that can come out of
Yeah, the one I always remember is like when something like very acutely impacts you, like you have an immediate reaction to it and you might like explode on it or something.
yes.
You kind of like you frame how it impacted you. It's like when you said that, I felt like, and just being able to like say like it's not something the other person can kind of debate because you're talking about how something landed to you personally. It's like a feeling for you that is like an objective reality because that's how you felt. And starting the conversation with that framing sort of immediately like de-escalates it and makes it much more productive than if you're just like, no, you're wrong. And here, like, so I
Yes,
don't know,
which can
little tactics like that. There's a bunch of them, but that I found like so useful and like it worked amazingly well when I like remembered to use it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I find the biggest problem that affects team or anything in a company is communication and like team communication dysfunctions. To me, that's like the root of all problems. But okay, and so what about other coaching experiences that you have had that you mentioned before that were very positive for you?
Yeah, I think so there was the T group, but then we also, I think like a couple times a year as an executive team, we would do like an offsite that was coaching oriented. And we had someone kind of come in and diagnose the dynamics within that team and kind of try to work out some of the things that would come up there. And I always found that very valuable. I think the person that did it a few times for us was like very skilled and like being able to come in, observe how the team interacts and quickly picking up on like things that were real issues that you might sort of not understand or something that you wouldn't see because you're not like you haven't been trained to see these things. So I think that type of team coaching I found very valuable just because it like the you spend so much time in these sort of like intense meetings and conversations at the executive team level, and you're just not like trying to you're just trying to like get to an answer about a business problem. You're not trying to like pop up a level and figure out how we can work more efficiently as a team, work better as a team that ultimately will produce better outcomes. And so like being able to like focus on that specifically for an extended period of time, I thought served the company well. It served me well. So that was always like a very positive experience for me.
Oh, awesome. That's another example. I mean, that's within only a purely business context, but another example of like, yeah, and how many exec meetings or business meetings, it's all about like, okay, what business decision are we making? Like, and it's like a lot of people don't make the space for the personal human side of things again. Mm-hmm. So yes, even within a business. And so both that and within our personal lives. So many opportunities for growth. And so for other executives who have never tried coaching, what would you tell them about the impacts it can have from your personal point of view?
I guess I'd be curious why they haven't tried it yet. And based on that, I might tailor my advice. But like, I would just say like, you know, I certainly wouldn't undervalue like the potential impact. Like maybe you're very oriented around business outcomes and you don't see how these things are connected. I would say like, I would keep an open mind about how connected they can actually be. Because in my experience, they are. Like when we were operating well there were plenty of periods of times, years even, where the executive team was pretty dysfunctional. And there were periods where it was like highly functional and flowing. And there was like a clear difference in the business outcomes in those scenarios. And so to the extent that you can get to one of those, like the better state, by virtue of these types of coaching things, whether it's like a personal exec coach or more of a team oriented or more of like the group thing, I think like they all kind of offer different value. But I think they all can directly be tied to a business outcome. So if you're worried that it's not connected, I would say like you should try it out and see how connected it can be.
Oh, wow. Chrissy, you're like a spokesperson for coaching. Yes, there is so many. Yeah, there are definitely so many different coaching opportunities as well, between like the deep one-on-one personalized coaching, like working within yourself, versus, yeah, the group coaching, the team dynamics as an executive team, or even within like individual, like say product teams or product engineering teams. And so it's a matter of just also finding what could help you accelerate you and your business at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have 2 fun questions for you. So switching to that, because we're getting near the end towards wrap up. What's the best thing about pickleball for you? Maybe something that surprised you.
Well, I played tennis in high school, so I have a lot of experience playing tennis. And then when I tried pickleball, the thing that really stood out was like how, even with like pretty new players, how insane some of the points can be. Like you might think you're out of it, but you can always kind of work your way back into it because it's really hard to like smash a pickleball in the way that you would smash a tennis ball. So it was like like every once in a while you'll have one of these points where it's like you have no idea which way it's going. It looks like one side has the advantage and the other side ends up winning the point miraculously. And you just have these magic moments that you don't get in tennis. So I like that was like the thing that really stood out.
Did the internet cut out for you when you were speaking?
Slightly. I don't know if it was
okay.
Can you?
Oh my God, sorry about it. Oh, can you say that again about like when you're you can't smash a pickleball as much as you can in tennis?
Yeah. So if I hit a pickleball as hard as I can, it doesn't really move that fast compared to a tennis ball. So that means like regardless of how out of position you might be or how much you've gifted like a floating ball to the other team, like you can still work your way back into a point and you can end up with these like incredible points that you think you might lose, but you don't lose. So that happens in pickleball and not tennis. That's what I like about it.
Oh, nice. Yes. I have come back from having 1 point, the other team having 9 points, and then you can still come back and win. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Pickleball. Yes.
Well, more on a point-to-point basis, but usually when I'm down 9-1, I lose. But
oh no limiting beliefs. Yeah, I'm also personally hyped about pickleball. That's why I'm asking Chris about it. So, and then what's one cool thing you found recently or that you're obsessed with that the audience might find valuable?
So I've recently gotten obsessed with hiking around my house, and I never really liked walking that much. But then like one day there was something that happened at work that like really bugged me. And I was like, "Ah, I gotta like get up and go somewhere because this is like so obnoxious. I need to like figure out how to get my mind off it." And so I randomly decided to just like, there's a trail up the road outside my house because I kind of live out in the middle of nowhere in Los Altos Hills. Um, so there's a bunch of nice trails, and I just like grabbed my phone, put on like an audiobook, and just like went for a hike and kind of like tried to not think about the thing that was bugging me. And then like I came back like 2 hours later, and I was like, that was like amazing. It's like the trail was beautiful. Like it completely got my mind off everything, and like it just felt like this regenerative experience. And so since then, I've been trying to go on some sort of long hike every day. Doesn't always work out. But then, yeah, so I'm trying to like get a little bit more ambitious every time I go. And so there's an entrance to a park like a mile up the road from me. And then at the beginning of the park, there's like a trail that goes like, I think 8 miles up to like Skyline. And so that's like a pretty epic hike. So my goal is to like walk from here, do to the top of that, and then come back at some point. That might take like 4 or 5 hours, but yeah, I've been like obsessed with hiking for whatever reason after that.
Oh, that makes sense to me from an energy management standpoint. So I would say the takeaway tool for everyone else is that take a walk or hike in nature to refresh your mental and emotional energy. Does that
Yes, I
resonate with you?
deliberately try not to think about like the things that I've been thinking about, or so I try to like get my mind. And if I can't do it, I'll like listen to an audiobook or something.
Oh, nice. Yes. And actually, that reminds me of a practice in Japan called forest bathing, where people, just go into the forest to refresh their energy, basically. Yes. I use this
Yeah,
tool as well. I don't have a forest by my house to hike in, but in San Francisco we
that did
have
help.
the beaches and the coastline. Okay, and so Chris, what is next for you, and how can people follow along or get involved?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on X. My handle is at CTE, which is awesome three-letter handle. That was hard to
How
get. I
did
had to
you
be
get
early.
such an amazing Twitter/X username?
I think I was like, my user ID is like 100,000 or something. So it was like
Okay, so you basically just
definitely the
signed up
first
with
year
it.
that Twitter started, but not, yeah. So people have offered me money for that handle too,
Oh, they
but
have?
I'm never going to
Wow.
give it
I
up.
think I signed
My
up around
initial.
the first year of Twitter, but no one's offered me money. um, and for me, if you're an executive or founder facing a major inflection point, I help people use their zone of genius to find clarity and confidence in strategically navigating your transition and journey. We can set up a 10-minute clarity call to see if I can help you. You can book a call directly on my LinkedIn. And so let's see if there's any questions for Q&A. I don't see any questions right now. So we can wrap up. Chris E. or Chris, I call him Chris E. because I was known as Chris P. At
That's right.
Tophatter. Chris, I celebrate you for sharing so much wisdom and insights that I think a lot of people might not think about, and really being so open and vulnerable about your inflection point journey as well. I know a lot of people will definitely appreciate knowing that they're not alone, and there are ways to ask for help and have strategic partnership in moving on and keep thriving in your best energy and your zone of genius. So
Cool. Thanks so much
thank
for having me.
you. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Wishing you a week of good energy.